we'll get it off the top. He said, she said. 3 topics, 2 minutes each. Anything goes, as always. There are no taboos. All aboard. Wouldn't it be great if there was a high-speed rail line in this state that would link the Bay Area to the Central Valley to Southern California? You could argue that it would make travel a lot easier and cut down on traffic. You could also argue that more than $40 billion is too much to spend. In 2008, California voters authorized $9 billion in bonds for the project. The federal government has given the state $3.5 billion in grant funds. The first segment of the rail line alone will be $3 to $6 billion more than expected. Down the road, it might be a nice thing to have. Right now, is it worth it? Our contributors, the editor of RedCounty.com, Matt Cunningham, and Doctor of Social Ethics, Charlotte Laws. Our pictures are furnished by Skype. Charlotte, we'll start with you. Does the state need it at a cost of more than $40 billion?
I think we do need it because California is the 8th largest economy in the world. We are way behind the rest of the world on this. We only have one rail line, high-speed rail line in this country, which is in the Northeast. And if you look at other countries like China, they have 9,000 miles of rail lines that are either in place or under construction. Spain is second, and it's all over their country. And on the top 15, we don't even show up. And what happened was, apparently, is like 1940s to 1970s.
Charlotte, I don't care. Would you ride this thing?
Yes, I would.
You would ride it?
Absolutely.
And you think at this time... Go ahead.
We can't keep relying on cars and oil. We have to get ahead in this world, and we have competition from the rest of the world, and this is one way to do it. And it's better to spend money on high-speed rail than on roads.
All right.
That's proven. More jobs and better for the economy.
Well, let's find out from Matt. Matt, do you think we should spend $40 billion on this train right now?
That's a good question. I voted against high-speed rail when it was on the ballot, but I do think but a majority of voters in California disagreed with me. So my attitude towards it really is that as long as the voters have voted to have this and want the money spent, I want it done in the most business-like and cost-efficient manner possible. I think you can make a case, actually, that high-speed rail would be viable in California. I would ride it for a lot of these, from going from here to San Francisco. It'd certainly be a lot less of a hassle than air travel, as long as there's no TCA
But really, you know what, to both of you, the question is, now, I know it has to be built, and I don't argue that, by the way. Now, when money is this tight, do it now? Matt, yes or no?
Well, I'm not sure. I guess I would say no, but I'm not sure how you can do it within the bonds that have already been appropriated. I guess you could wait until the economy turns around and there's more money to spend, but at the same time, do you sit on your hands forever when the voters voted to have a bill?
All right, and Charlotte, I'll end this with you, and I'll give you 10 seconds to answer. They're talking about education cuts here. Cut education or spend $40 billion on the train. 10 seconds.
You know what? I do support this train. I don't like the fact that the federal government is saying use it or lose it. So in other words, what we have to do, they're saying you have to use the money for Central Valley first. You can't use it for the populated areas like LA or San Francisco first. That, I think, is wrong, and I think that's a problem with policy. But I think we should go forward with it. I'm a fiscal conservative. I don't like spending this kind of money.
Right.
I know you don't, Fred, but I still think we need to do it.
Very good. Charlotte's on board. Let's go. In 2 years, all cities and states are supposed to be taking part in the Secure Communities program. Now, that means if somebody's arrested and booked into jail, their fingerprints are sent to the FBI to check for criminal records and to Homeland Security to check for immigration violations. And that means if you're arrested, you're not supposed to be here, you can be deported. That's what's supposed to happen. But not everybody likes it. The states of New York and Illinois say they won't do it, and California may follow their lead. According to Attorney General Kamala Harris, victims and witnesses must feel free to interact with law enforcement and report crime without fear of reprisal. No matter, the feds say everybody in. Should California try to opt out, or should the law stand, Matt?
We should not opt out, and it sounds from the news reports like we can't opt out. Frankly, this should not be controversial. If you're arrested and you're fingerprinted as part of being arrested, and your fingerprints go into the federal database, and it turns out you're in this country illegally, it is entirely appropriate for the federal authorities to contact you and try to deport you if they wish, whether or not you're a violent criminal or not. You're in the country illegally. But it sounds like as long as the fingerprints go in the federal database, it doesn't matter if it goes to the FBI first. They can share them with ICE. And frankly, there's nothing wrong with that. I think Kamala Harris's reasoning is absurd. There's nothing, why would a witness or a bystander be afraid to testify their fingerprints aren't in the system. They're not being arrested. And if their testimony is that vital, prosecutors have it within their power to grant them some kind of immunity and protect them from deportation. So I think those are red herrings she's throwing up.
Right.
So it's symptomatic of the dysfunctional liberal politics of this state, that something as that the question of whether we should deport someone in the country illegally is controversial.
All right, let's go. Charlotte, what do you think?
I mean, I generally agree with you, Matt, but I did call Los Angeles Police Department today and found out that actually this program is, as far as sending fingerprints onto the FBI, that's voluntary, and then FBI sends it on to ICE. So right now, the localities get to decide whether they want to forward those fingerprints, and LAPD says they don't do it all the time. And also I found out that this AB 1081, which is what the legislation for our state, that in Sacramento, they're looking at passing this thing, they want to opt out of it. It doesn't opt out the whole state. It says that every locality gets to make their own decision.
All right, but
so
Charlotte,
that means,
Charlotte,
what?
Here's the bottom line. Should California go against the wishes of the federal government in this situation? Yes or no?
I'll say no, but I don't think this whole thing is as objectionable. I think people are making a mountain out of a molehill in many respects. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
In some states, it's a bigger deal because they're requiring it for the whole state, and every locality has to comply with that state, like in Massachusetts. That's a bigger problem.
Okay, let's move on. Now a question I know has been on your mind for some time. That's why I'm going to bring it up here. Are Sesame Street legends Bert and Ernie gay? Are puppets designed for preschoolers gay? There are those that believe they are. And there's an online petition that urges Bert and Ernie marry each other on Sesame Street. A Chicago resident started the petition at change.org to pressure Sesame Street into letting them get married on the show. He says nothing crude or disrespectful, but do it in a tasteful way. Are they gay? Well, the man who started the petition said living in the same bedroom, in the same house, would make anybody question their sexuality. Sesame Street says Bert and Ernie are not gay because they're not, and because they're puppets. At a time when same-sex couples are fighting for equality, does something like this trivialize the struggles they're going through? Charlotte?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think that the show could have a couple of characters get married with a gay marriage. I don't think it necessarily needs to be the main characters, because the truth is there's nothing is content neutral. You're always conveying a message with everything. And I actually went on the internet today and checked out some of the excerpts from this show and found, for example, all sorts of messages they're conveying, many of them not even accurate. A chicken talking about how happy they are to be eaten, and oh, it's so wonderful, and I love to be made into soup, etc., and I love the factory farm. But this particular show has actually been a leader on lots of social issues. This is not just one issue that is out of the ordinary.
Yeah, but here's my question. Here's my question. Do you think when Jim Henson designed the Muppets, he said, we're going to have Bert and we're going to have Ernie, and they're going to be gay? Do you think that was the intention?
No, of course it's not the intention, but a show evolves. It doesn't matter necessarily what the original intention is. Things evolve in a television show. And they've done a lot. They've had an HIV positive character on this show. They've had all sorts of issues. They've looked at child abuse. They've looked at Hurricane Katrina and 9/11.
Okay, so your feeling is Bert and Ernie should get married?
Well, I think that maybe they should explore the issue, but I don't think they should have Bert and Ernie get married, because that puts them into a category where then they have to build all their shows around that. So no, I probably wouldn't do that, but there's no reason why a couple of other characters can't get married. Why not?
All right. What do you think, Matt?
This is just insanity. It really is. Bert and Ernie being gay or not, I mean, they're puppets, for crying out loud. Are we going to turn Sesame Street into some kind of social engineering tool? Do you think preschoolers care about anyone's sexual orientation? Are we gonna? I mean, is this petitioner gatherer is like guilty of sexual profiling? Bert and Ernie are two men who share an apartment. They must be gay. Even to suggest that we need to propagandize toddlers about it's okay to be gay. They're not even thinking about that. They're barely learning their letters.
They've already had another heterosexual couple got married on this show, and someone got pregnant. So they've already explored marriage previously.
Two wrongs. Well, heterosexual marriage is marriage, and having a character get pregnant, I mean, those are natural things. But to wade into a cultural landmine like gay marriage, is it really necessary? Is this something we have to do? A bigger problem in this country rather than to try to
in 1970 they had
4-year-olds.
They were criticized for having black and white members. on stage together. They were criticized.
Right.
In fact, the state of Mississippi didn't even want to run this show, and they were a leader and said, we are promoting integration, and they did that.
I don't think any serious person, I don't think, no serious person can possibly advocate that we turn Bert and Ernie into some sort of role model or teaching moment for gay marriage. It's just absurd on its face. I can't believe we're even talking about it.
All right, and if Bert and Ernie got married, would they change their name to Bernie? Bert and Ernie? I'm just curious. All right, Charlotte, Matt, thanks. Great job. We'll talk to you again soon.